Welcome to the Guide to Faceoffs in NHL 19, brought to you by PK Subban himself, which now that I think about it, doesn't make any sense because he's a defenseman and he won't know how to do faceoffs. That's not the point. Don't worry about it. But I'm Brian Storm and I do know how to take faceoffs. If you don't know who I am, well, you've certainly been missing out, as I've made over 80 videos in the past 2 years helping out with everything related to NHL, including making coins in HUT. Make sure to subscribe because I'll be doing the same in NHL 19. So faceoffs are important because they'll determine who has puck possession before the time is even counting down. There are 4 keys to winning faceoffs. The first one is timing. You have to do your faceoff move at the right time to even have a chance at winning the faceoff. The second is your player's Faceoff Rating, which if it's way higher than your opponent's, it doesn't matter what you do, you'll probably end up winning. Grip strength basically means you have to prepare for the faceoff. And finally, you have to counter your opponent's faceoff move to be able to successfully win. If you do all 4 of those, you'll certainly win every faceoff. Easier said than done. Now we're going to go through each of those points in depth. The first one is timing. In the recent NHL games, the only timing that matters is doing the face-off move when the ref drops the puck. There's a little window from when he moves his hand to when the puck is on the ice. That is the window where you try to win the face-off. It doesn't matter what time in that window you try to win the face-off. If you choose to do it when the ref moves his hand and your opponent does it when the puck is already on the ice, it'll produce the same result. In this situation, you do your move right about now as the ref's dropping the puck. And here's just a bunch of different situations, different angles. If the angle was like this, you can see the ref moving his head down, and that is when you go for the face-off move. Up next is the face-off rating. If you and your opponent do the same move, but one has a higher face-off rating, that person will have a better chance of winning the face-off. Pat over here is an interesting choice because he is a centerman who was great at face-offs in NHL 18, but only has 57 face-off rating in NHL 19. It's kind of weird. Last year in my face-offs video, we determined that a +1 rating to face-offs doesn't make a difference. If it's a 10 face-off rating difference, it's about a 20% boost in success, and around a 20 stat difference is a 40% boost in success. Up next is grip strength. As I mentioned before, grip strength is how prepared you are for the face-off. I'm in the white and red. I don't have a face-off grip right now while my opponent does, and now I put a forehand face-off grip on. With the right stick to the left or to the right, before the ref drops the puck, you can put a face-off grip on. It depends on the way your player shoots. My player's a lefty right now, so to the left is a forehand grip, to the right is a backhand grip. That was an example of putting the grip on a little bit too late. The in-game helper could help you determine whether or not you're doing it too late or too early. What it comes down to, though, is the grip strength prevents people from doing something like this, changing your grip before the ref drops the puck. So now we're going to go through all the different ways that you can win a face-off, starting with the basic forehand. With the right stick, I have my grip to the forehand, which is to the left, and then I push it downward when the ref drops the puck. Since my guy's a lefty, the forehand's on the left, but if he was a righty, the forehand would be on the right. And here it is slowed down. You basically just do a counterclockwise motion with your right stick. Up next is the basic backhand, and it's just a mirrored version of the forehand. My grip is on the backhand, which in this case, it's to the right, and then I do a clockwise motion to go downward on the right stick. Here's a different angle of winning the backhand face-off. If you're playing online, you guys should be aware of what face-off moves your opponent is doing so that you can counter them. Against the computer, it's random, so it doesn't really matter which one you do, but I've had the most success with just basic backhands against them. So this is the forehand stick lift. I start on the forehand, but instead of pushing downward, I push upward on the right stick. The thing to watch out about this move, it's a very slow pass back to whoever you're trying to pass to. Sometimes your opponent can be more prepared than you for that face-off move. Next is the backhand stick lift. My right stick is on the right, that's my backhand, and now I'm going to roll it upward as the ref is dropping the puck in that little window that I was talking about. After that, we're going to go over to the tie-up. The tie-up is different because it's based on your left stick and not your right stick. Have your left stick either to the left or to the right, doesn't really matter, and as the ref drops the puck, you roll it upward to about 12 o'clock. You should still do a grip when you're doing the face-off, otherwise people will always know you're going for the tie-up. Lastly is the face-off deke, and this is more useless than ever before. You're just doing a deke off the face-off, and it's really only used against people who drop their controllers and they're not playing. The reason why it's useless is because sometimes this happens distance, and you're going to end up losing the puck. It worked a little bit better here, and the way that you do it is you hold left bumper or L1 and then push up on the left and right stick at the same time. You do that in the little timing window that we talked about. This face-off move doesn't counter the other face-off moves, but it's still nice to know about. Up next is what your left stick does when you're not tying people up. You can use the left stick to determine who you want to pass back to when you win the face-off. One thing this doesn't work entirely with is the backhand stick lift, because you can't get it to the guy on your forehand when you're doing that move. Finally, the moment we've probably been waiting for, and that's the face-off counters guide that I created, and I was trying to figure out what's the best way of visualizing these counters. A lot of people use letters, some people have used pictures, but that's when the face-offs were a little bit more basic. But when you're adding in the new counters, 4 pictures all of a sudden turns into like 10 pictures. If you're here just for the new counters, the backhand stick lift beats any tie-up, and the forehand stick lift beats the backhand stick lift. The reason why they do that is people who lined up on the backhand would very often be countered by people who are doing the tie-up. They wanted to have more options available to you and make it a little bit less predictable. So the way this works is if the move on the left or right met with the move up top, the one that wins is the color that's shaded in. So it's all color-coded pretty much. Anything black is a toss-up. That means the game flips a coin to determine who wins, unless there's a face-off rating difference, and the person with the higher face-off rating will have a greater chance of winning. As we said, tie-ups can be both backhand or forehand, and deeks lose to everything but have a slightly better chance against tie-ups. So now, which face-off move should you do? Which ones should you line up on? If you line up on the forehand grip, your choices are a basic forehand, a forehand stick lift, or a tie-up. If you line up on the tie-up, your choices are a basic backhand, a basic stick lift, or a tie-up. Here's where things get a little bit more interesting. If you lined up on the forehand from the basic forehand, you only will cleanly win one of those counters. With the stick lift, you'll win 2 of those counters, and with the tie-up, you'll only win 1. If you line up on your backhand, you have a greater chance of winning because the basic backhand beats 2 things, the backhand stick lift beats 2 things, and the tie-up beats 1 thing. So that's 5 successful counters compared to the forehand's 4 successful counters. That means on your backhand, you should have a greater chance of winning. Now, things get even more interesting when your opponent lines up on the forehand. If you know that your face-off rating is higher than your opponent's, because let's say you maxed it out at 99 or you're using someone really good, if you stick lift them with the forehand, they should never win unless RNGesus just doesn't like you. On the flip side, if your opponent has a higher face-off rating and goes forehand, you never want to go forehand. Otherwise, you're going to get cornered in your options. The backhand one is trickier because there's no clear advantage. The backhand will lose to the tie-up will lose to the stick lift will lose to the backhand. Which means if you're playing against a really good opponent, the only way to keep him guessing is to keep it on your backhand. Face-offs can feel like a chess match before you even get to skate around. A lot of thought really gets put in them, and it's like a more complex version of rock, paper, scissors. I might come out with a more clear advanced video compared to last year's a bit later on, but for now, if you're playing online and you're not in Division 1, chances are your opponent will always do the same face-off move. So as long as you have the counter for that, you should have no problems winning most of your face-offs. If your opponent has a better team with a higher face-off rating, it's kind of tough because the counters make less of a difference. It's not 100% guarantee. As I stated before, if you do the right counter, but your opponent has a higher face-off rating by 20, all of a sudden your chances of winning are about 60%. Not a whole lot you can do about that. In or around Division 1, that's when it really starts to get complicated, where you're playing mind games with your opponent. If you guys need any additional help or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me by writing a comment below. As you guys saw, I love helping out other people, so I'd be happy to assist you. Stay tuned for more guides on NHL 19 because this channel is the best place for it.